Former CIA Director John Brennan appears on Meet the Press in Washington, D.C. by NBC Newswire. Contributor, Getty Images. All it took for the White House's James Comey story to collapse was a single TV appearance by Donald Trump, after the administration had sworn up and down that the former FBI director was fired on the recommendation of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein for mishandling the probe into Hillary Clinton's email server. The president appeared on NBC and famously told Lester Holt, "When I decided to just do it, I said to myself, you know, this Russia thing is a made-up story." Trump has since contradicted his own words, denying that the Department of Justice's probe into Russian interference in the 2016 election had anything to do with his decision to cut Comey loose. Nevertheless, the incident is reportedly of critical interest to Robert Mueller as he seeks to determine whether the president obstructed justice. So it was with a strange sense of déjà vu that many read Trump's Wednesday night interview with The Wall Street Journal, wherein he suggested that the security clearance of former CIA Director John Brennan was not revoked over fears that he would spill classified secrets on cable news, as the White House claimed, but because of the key role Brennan played in the beginning of the Russia probe. "I call it the rigged witch hunt. It is a sham. And these people led it," Trump told the paper. "So I think it's something that had to be done." His tirade, of course, flies in the face of the White House's purported reason for stripping Brennan of his clearance. During Wednesday's briefing, Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders read aloud a statement declaring that Brennan's alleged lying and recent conduct, characterized by increasingly frenzied commentary and wild outbursts on the internet and television, prompted the unprecedented move, arguing that someone prone to making unfounded and outrageous claims in public should not have access to the country's most closely held secrets. Putting aside the obvious irony, many were skeptical of this line of reasoning, including Brennan himself. This action is part of a broader effort by Mr. Trump to suppress freedom of speech. By what the White House would almost certainly argue is pure coincidence, much of Brennan's frenzied commentary has been anti-Trump. Last month, the former intelligence chief was critical of Trump's performance during the summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, likening him to Bernie Madoff in that the two share a remarkably unethical ability to deceive. In fact, the White House's list of those whose security clearances are under review: Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former FBI Director James Comey, former Director of the National Security Agency Michael Hayden, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, former Deputy Director of the FBI Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, an FBI agent who was fired over the weekend, former FBI Attorney Lisa Page and Bruce OHR, who still works at the Justice Department but was demoted earlier this year, reads like a laundry list of people Trump views as his enemies. While speaking with a journal, Trump suggested that any number of them could face the same retribution as Brennan. "I don't trust many of those people on that list," he said. "I think that they're very duplicitous. I think they're not good people." He also referenced the FBI's Clinton email probe, in which a number of those whose security clearances are now under scrutiny were involved. "You look at any of them and you see the things they've done," he said. "In some cases, they've lied before Congress." The Hillary Clinton whole investigation was a total sham. Comey and McCabe have said that their security badges were automatically demagnetized after they were fired. Some level of blame shifting is to be expected from Trump, who has repeatedly sought to turn the collusion spotlight on Democrats and the Clinton campaign. But here he seems to be cementing a new strategy, a sort of feedback loop in which actions taken by his own administration serve as evidence that Mueller's investigation should be shut down. After Deputy FBI Director David Bowditch overruled the recommendation of Inspector General Michael Horowitz and ordered that Strzok be fired over a series of anti-Trump texts. Trump wrote on Twitter, "Strzok started the illegal rigged witch hunt. Why isn't this so-called probe ended immediately? Why aren't these angry and conflicted Democrats instead looking at crooked Hillary?" On Wednesday morning, foreshadowing the Brennan announcement, he expanded on this argument. The rigged Russian witch hunt goes on and on as the originators and founders of this scam continue to be fired and demoted for their corrupt and illegal activity, he wrote. All credibility is gone from this terrible hoax, and much more will be lost as it proceeds. The president, of course, has routinely cast the Russia probe as orchestrated by his political enemies, failing to acknowledge the continued threat Russian hackers pose to U.S. elections, not to mention the dozens of indictments Mueller has delivered. But Trump's spin could prove to be the only thing that matters. While Republican leadership has repeatedly signaled that any move against Mueller would be met with congressional opposition, stripping Brennan's security clearance may have been a litmus test of sorts. In an interview with CNN Wednesday night, Clapper confirmed that Trump could do the same to Mueller, effectively hamstringing him. The president does have the authority to exercise here if he so chooses, Clapper said. Indeed, if the White House was holding its breath for congressional uproar, it's unlikely to arrive, though Paul Ryan said the president was merely trolling people when the White House first floated the idea of revoking security clearances last month. He has so far stayed quiet on Trump's choice to follow through with the threat. The efficacy of Trump's latest political retribution remains to be seen. But in the meantime, Brennan appears to have no intention of curtailing his criticism of the president. In an op-ed for the New York Times published Thursday, the former CIA chief called the president's assertion that there was no collusion between his campaign and the Russian government hogwash.